All right, welcome back to the Poker Vlog, everybody. Today is actually Monday, September the 9th, and I'm putting together the vlog as we speak. There you go. You can see the vlog that I'm putting together as we speak. And I realized that I had a few hands from a session that I played at Bellagio on the 31st of August that I wanted to include in this episode. So those are the first three hands that we're going to go over, and then from there we're going to jump into the 1-3 streets, back at the 1-3 streets, but we're going to be at the Wynn. $500 effective buy-in, 1-3 at the Wynn. Pretty decent games, pretty decent table selection too at the Wynn when it comes to 1-3. So I'm going to be putting in quite a few sessions at that property coming up here. I might jump into the 2-5 at the Wynn, but I don't know. We'll see. 2-5 at the Wynn is a little intimidating for me at this point, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get up some nerve and go take a seat and see what we can do at the 2-5 streets at the Wynn. But for this episode, it's 2-5 at Bellagio, and then it's 1-3 at the Wynn. August the 31st at Bellagio. Wednesday, September 4th. At the Wynn. And that's going to do it for the intro, guys. I'll see you at the tables. Kicking things off at Bellagio, we look down at pocket tens in the small blind. Not a bad way to get things going. Better yet, we see a player who limps in the hijack. He puts in the $5 call. Action folds around to me, and I am certainly going to be raising up a hand as strong as pocket tens. I go ahead and I make it $20 to go, trying to isolate with the player who limped in the hijack, and that is indeed what happens. We go heads up to a flop that comes down pretty dynamic, pretty wet, pretty coordinated, 10-7-4 with two diamonds, giving us top set, but on a very draw-heavy board. Being out of position, I go ahead and check here like I would with my entire range, and I also think this is the type of board that's going to get stabbed at quite frequently, and he does take that initiative. He does stab at it, and he stabs rather large here. He makes it 45 to go here on the flop. I did not check the flop to just call his bet here. I checked to check raise, and that is exactly what I do. I raise it up and I go large here. I make it 300 to go, targeting any of his draws here that he is most likely going to have when he stabs this board. He's going to have a lot of straight draws, a lot of flush draws, and you could have a hand like maybe pocket jacks that decided to limp call pre-flop for whatever reason, or a two-pair hand like 7-4 suited that decided to limp call pre-flop. So I don't think any of those are going to be able to get away from it when I put in a big check raise. I think he's going to be calling here all the time, and he may even decide to spaz out and just go all in with some of his holdings. Unfortunately, though, that is not what happens. After thinking about it for some time, he makes the right decision and ends up folding his cards. That's an unfortunate outcome. That is not what we wanted to see in this spot. We were really hoping to get at least a call and then to go all in on the turn, playing a two-street game Maybe I went a little too large there on the flop. Maybe I should have went to like 225 or 250. Let me know what you think in the comments below about my sizing there on that check raise. Really was hoping to get some value, but sometimes there's just no value to be had. And I don't necessarily hate the way I played it, but a call would have been nice. Moving right along to the next hand, we look down at Ace-Jack offsuit. Not one of my favorite starting hands in the world, and I certainly don't love it when I'm out of position in the small blind, actually the worst position at the table. But when it folds around to the button and he puts in the limp, I think I definitely have to raise here, and I raise it up to $20. We end up getting called by the big blind and the button, so we're going to go three ways here to a flop. A flop that does give us top pair with a pretty decent kicker. We see Ace-7-3 with two clubs. I never enjoyed playing that game monkey in the middle when I was in grade school, and I certainly don't enjoy playing it when I'm at the poker table, so I start things off with a check, big blind checks, and the button checks, so we end up seeing the 10 of hearts peel off on the turn. Now I think I want to start betting because I'm pretty sure I have the best hand, and I settle on about a 2/3 pot size bet. I go with a $40 bet into a $60-ish pot, and it ends up getting folds from everyone, so unfortunately there's no value to be had here. Was hoping one of these players had maybe a club draw or maybe some sort of middle pair hand that they wanted to put in a call with, or maybe they turned to 10 and they wanted to peel a card with their second pair now on this board. But unfortunately that's not the case. They all fold and we end up taking down a small pot here with our ace-jack offsuit, but I'm not going to complain because I usually don't get anything when I play this hand. Last hand that we play at Bellagio, we look down at two cowboys, the pocket kings in the low jack. It folds around to me, and I'm going to go ahead and raise this up. I make it 20 to go. We end up getting called by one player and one player only. The player in the big blind puts in the call, and we are going to go heads up here to a flop. A flop against a player who I think would be routinely put into the old man coffee category, if you know what I mean. Very tight, very straightforward player. Heads up to a flop. A flop that comes down looking pretty safe for our pocket kings. We see 8-3 deuce with two hearts. The big blind quickly checks on this flop, and I go ahead and fire out a continuation bet here of $25. I think I go a bit too large here with my sizing on the flop. I think I could size down to just go with like 20 bucks, but we get our wish. He does raise immediately here on this board, and he looks like he is ready to jump out of his seat when he announces $75. He looks very excited and very tuned in to what is going on with his hand after having looked like he was about ready to fall asleep prior to this. I don't think we're going to be good here too often. So I make a disrespectful fold here, and I show my hand and let him know that I folded the overpair. Let the nit shaming begin. If we can get 100 comments below referring to me as a nit for making this fold, I'm going to do something fun in a future episode, a giveaway or something fun for all of you fine subscribers and listeners and watchers of this vlog. So 100 comments referring to me as a nit for making this fold, and we will do something like that in a future episode. In all seriousness, though, I think this was the right fold. I had not seen this gentleman do anything out of line the entire session. The only hands that I had seen him shown down with were extremely strong hands. He only put money in the pot when he had the best of it. So I think when he check raises me here, I think we're just looking at a set of eights, a set of threes, and a set of deuces pretty much 100% of the time. And we are drawing very slim against that type of a range. There's maybe two kings left in the deck, probably one king left in the deck. So against that exact range, I just think we've got to fold and look for better spots. I know it's tough. It's a tight fold, and a lot of players would encourage a call here to evaluate on the turn, but I think we're just going to face more aggression on the turn. So I think in this case, tight was right. Moving the action over to the Wynn, jumping into the 1-3 streets, we look down at Ace-10 offsuit in the cutoff. We see a limp from an under-the-gun player, and I go ahead and raise it up. I make it 15 to go, trying to isolate with the limper. We end up getting called by the small blind and the player in the under-the-gun who put in the $3 call, so we're going to go three ways here to a flop. A flop that gives us top pair with an okay kicker, we see ace, deuce, six, two clubs, one heart. We end up firing out a continuation bet here for 20 after both players check it over. I think we could certainly be betting here for value. We can get called by flush draws. We could even get called by worse ace-X type hands. So I think it's fine to go ahead and bet here for value. That is what I do, and unfortunately, there is no value to be had. Both players fold, and we end up taking down a small pot to get the session started here in the 1-3 streets at the Wynn. That's okay, though. I'll take the small win to kick things off. Let's see if we can keep the momentum going here in future hands. I might have played this one a bit too weak here in a multi-way spot. I look down at pocket tens. I'm in the under the gun +1 position. Certainly good enough to come in for a raise. I make it 12 to go. We end up getting called by two players. The button puts in the call and the big blind puts in the call. So we're going to go three ways here to a flop. A flop that comes down all clubs. A monotone board. It's king 8 deuce. Now, I do have the 10 of clubs here in this spot, but I don't really think it's all that strong to bet here multi-ways, so I end up going ahead and checking after the big blind checks, and then the button quickly checks back as well. We go to a turn card, which comes down another over card to our pair. It's the queen of hearts. Now the big blind picks up the betting lead. He bets out for $15 on this turn card. This is a very, very tight player. Look at his chips, guys. Look how he stacks his chips. You see that? That is a sign of a tight player right there. The button does put in the call, and then the big blind bets out for another 15 on the river. Button folds, big blind ends up taking down this small pot. Now, the big blind didn't have to show his hand because the button folded, but the button did show a king, so he did have top pair. But I'm going to guess by the way the big blind stacks his chips, that he had the best hand the whole time. I bet you he flopped the flush. If the pocket king's hand earlier wasn't enough for you to take the initiative to leave a comment calling me a nit, then this hand should do the trick. This time we've got pocket queens in the under the gun spot. I raise it up, I make it 12 to go. We end up getting three opponents who put in the call. The under the gun +1 player puts in the call, a player in middle position puts in the call, and the cutoff puts in the call. So we're going to end up going four ways here to a flop with the pocket queens, with the ladies. Let's see what the flop has to bring us here. Can we connect one-time dealer with a decent board here? One that's going to favor the pre-flop raiser and not the pre-flop callers? Not really. We see 10-8 deuce with two hearts. That's a pretty wet, dynamic board in a multi-way spot, and I am out of position, so I start things off with a check. It checks over to the player in middle position who bets 20, and one player in the cutoff puts in the $20 call. We've got a bet and we've got a call. I think one of these players stands to have a draw. The other one could have a top pair type hand that's just stabbing at this pot. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a check raise here. I announce $85. Player in the under the gun +1 spot quickly gets out of the way. The middle position player who bet $20 instantly goes all in, and she has me covered. I snap fold here. As soon as the player in the cutoff folds, I can't get my cards into the muck quickly enough. I jokingly say ace is no good, but let's face it, aces, kings, queens, it's all the same hand here in this spot. We're dead to sets, we're dead to two pair. And she did say she flopped two pair. I believe her in this spot. I don't think she's going to rip in her entire stack with less. Sometimes playing these big pocket pairs can be a blessing and a curse. This time we pick up the Cowboys. We're on the button. We see a raise from a player who is under the gun. He makes it 15 to go, and the action folds around to me. I go ahead and announce a 3-bet to $80. The under the gun player who raised, who is the same player that we were up against in the previous hand, snap calls my 3-bet. She can't get the money out over the line fast enough. Everyone else gets out of the way, and we're going to end up going heads up here to a flop. A flop that once again gives us an overpair, but this time it's a less draw heavy, it's dry board, so I think we're feeling a little bit better in this spot than we were in the previous spot. We see 10-5 deuce rainbow. Under the gun pretty quickly checks, and I'm going to be down betting on this flop in a 3-bet pot pretty frequently. And this is going to be no exception. I go $65 on the flop, and once again, she snap calls the $65 bet. We're off to a turn card. The turn card, I would say, is above average. I would say it's an above average card. We end up seeing the King of Hearts peel off on the turn, giving us top set. So for whatever reason she was slow playing a set of fives or a set of deuces, we are about to play a very big hand. Now I think I made two mistakes here. I check back after she checks the turn card. I think I should be betting this turn card, just a small bet. And then after she checks the river card, which is the 4 of diamonds, I announce an all-in. I think this is way, 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 way too large given the range that she is showing us that she has when she checks twice. I think she's probably just got a pair, maybe a 10, maybe a pocket pair that was non-believing, maybe even a hand like pocket jacks. And I think I should have bet smaller on the river, targeting that exact range. This hand, I pick up ace-queen of clubs in early position. I go ahead and make a raise to $12. Folds around to the same player who once again puts in the call. Everyone else gets out of the way, and apparently we've got a little bit of a battle going on with his opponent. We're going to go heads up to a flop. This time we're out of position, so let's see what the flop has to bring for us. And the flop is a nice one. We get top pair, top kicker with queen, 8, deuce, rainbow. I'm out of position, so I start things off with a check, and she quickly checks back. Turn is the 7 of diamonds, and now I think I want to start betting for value, so I just fire out a small bet here of 15. She pretty quickly calls. River is the 4 of diamonds. I go ahead and bet 20 here for value, trying to get called by any of her pairs or worse queens. She quickly folds, so we don't get any additional value with our top pair, top kicker. Last hand of the session, this time we've got the snowmen, pocket 8s on the button. We see a raise from a player who's in the under the gun spot. Player makes it 15 to go, and two players in middle position put in the $15 call. I decide to just call here in position as well. Big blind puts in the call, and we are going to go multi-way here to a flop. A flop that comes down giving us an open-ended straight draw, 9, 7, 6, rainbow. The under the gun player goes ahead and fires out a continuation bet here of $25. Both players in middle position call the $25. I go ahead and put in the $25 call. Big blind puts in the $25 call. We're going to go 5 ways to a turn, which is the 10 of clubs, giving me the straight. Now everyone slows down and checks it over to me. Being that this is multi-way and there could be a lot of players out there that have flopped to pair or sets or something that they decided to slow play, I go ahead and bet out big here. I make it $80 on the turn. Unfortunately, everyone slowly folds here to this bet, and we end up taking down the pot on the turn. Maybe the size was a little too large. Maybe I should have sized down to like 60 or 65 here. Who knows? We end up taking down this final pot here of the session. I did play for another hour or so after this, but nothing notable happened. Hope you guys enjoyed the hands. I'll see you in the outro. All right, that's going to do it for episode 61 of the Poker Vlog. Not too many crazy hands in this session, but sometimes that's just the way it goes at this wild and wonderful game of No Limit Texas Hold'em, especially at the 1-3, 2-5 level. You sometimes get into some big pots, but more often than not, you get into some situations where you're just grinding it out and card dead for hours on end. But that's the game we play, that's the game we love, so I won't complain about it. If you guys like the episode, do consider giving me a thumbs up. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss future episodes, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. That's going to do it for this one. I'll see you all in episode 61. Until then, good luck at the tables.